Comrades, sisters, and guests, I am honored to present Lieutenant General retired Stephen Speaks, who is the Executive Vice President of the Enterprise Strategy and Planning for the United States Service Automobile Association. I would also like to acknowledge in attendance today Nathan McKinley, Vice President of the Infinity Management and Development. Most of us here today personally know USAA as an outstanding company which is dedicated to taking care of the insurance and financial needs of the military service personnel, veterans, and their families. You might have also recently seen their excellent ad on television. The importance of General Speaks' presence here today is that the USAA is now the official proud sponsor of the Veterans Foreign Wars Foundation Return the Favor campaign. Through their association with us beginning in August 2009, USAA has, among other activities, funded Operation Uplink Free Call Day, sponsored a joint VFW Military Family Appreciation event in San Diego in May 2010, in which 8,000 troops were fed by chicken filet, joined us in visiting airmen at the Whiteman Air Force Base and participated in our military game day festivities hosted by the Kansas City Chiefs this past October for over 1,300 of our military and their families. More such events are on the way as part of our Return the Favor program. USAA has truly stood by the side of the VFW as a trusted and valued friend. Today, USAA and the VFW are joining together to provide our membership with valuable services such as a branded credit card and other financial products. I foresee this partnership to substantially grow as we move forward. For 111 years, the Veterans of Foreign Wars has without fail served America's active duty military veterans and their families. And since 1922, USA has also served the military and their families. They too know what it is like to serve. I can think of no better or exemplary association than between the VFW and the USA because we both share a steadfast common mission to support patriotism and to provide for the urgent needs of those brave individuals who have and are now defending our freedoms. Without further ado, Lieutenant General Stephen Speaks.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's such an honor to be here in front of you all. And Commander-in-Chief Eubank, your very, very generous remarks give special semblance to all of us who cherish men and women who've worn the uniform, and also to honor those who continue to serve this country. And so it's a great privilege for me to be here in front of you, and words cannot express the depth of my commitment to your shared cause, our veterans. The first thing that draws me to this moment is the shared vision of a noble mission. And what I'd like to begin by saying is I affirm and so admire your objectives: to ensure the national security, to speed the rehabilitation of the nation's disabled and needy veterans, to assist the widows, the orphans, and the dependents of the disabled and needy veterans, and then to promote Americanism through education to patriotism and to constructive service to our communities. Those are indeed noble and laudable goals that demonstrate make this country better. And your commitment in all the ways that this great conference today brings out show that these are not mere words, you also bring deeds across the finish line. And so now, after a 35-year period of service in the United States Army, it's now my privilege to work for USAA and to see how we can continue to give meaning to the word that we honor those who serve. And by way of introduction, it's not so much my time in the Army that I'm proud of now, but rather the fact that I'm the proud parent of two sons, who between them have 5 combat tours, with one getting ready for his 6th here this next month. And in that period, to have met one of them at the hospital in Lanchtoul as he was evacuated from combat in Iraq, And then with my other twin, to see him grapple with the tragedy of PTSD. And so from that period, I think not of my own service, but rather of my time as somebody who's worn the uniform as a parent, which I often have found the more challenging uniform to wear. To be in those halls of Walter Reed and to see, as the Commander-in-Chief so nobly pointed out, that behind every veteran who's in a hospital is a family that is linked as care providers who give up their livelihood in many cases so that they can be with that wounded or injured young man or woman to speed their rehabilitation. So these are the forms of national commitment and national service that you aspire to help, to support, and that we at USAA are so committed to serving. I'd like to point out that as we do this, it's with a common realization that it is a serious and daunting task. Let's talk a few specifics that ought to unite us in the road ahead. First, let's talk unemployment. While our nation is proud that the unemployment level has gone below 9% for the first time in recent memory, let's also recognize that those who are the recent veterans of conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan are seeing the opposite trend. First, their current unemployment rate is 15.2%. And sadly, their unemployment rate is increasing while the nation's is decreasing. Let's talk about some of the challenges that are faced in trying to change that state of affairs. Let's talk about employers. Employers have a sacred responsibility, a duty to care for those who've worn the uniform. But honestly, when they talk in anonymous terms about their view about young veterans, what do they say? That they are concerned about their emotional stability. And so the shared mission we all have to provide continuing treatment and care is more serious than ever, because we have to ensure that employers are confident that that young man or woman who's worn a uniform can be a stable and viable member of his or her workplace. And so we have that challenge, in fact, that prejudice to overcome. I also think that as we move forward, it's important to recognize that it's not just those who have exited the service who are owed our commitment. Those of us who have seen this century pass and the previous century conclude recognize that one of the trends as America draws down from conflict is it tends to turn its back on the young men and women who've worn a uniform. It's sad, but it's true. We move on to other issues, other very pressing challenges this nation confronts. So let's talk about the young man or woman who still wears the uniform today. He or she has very serious issues financially. A recent article by the Washington Post here in October of this last year I thought was very, very illuminated. It said that, for example, over 25% of our current service members have debt of over $10,000 per household or per family or per individual. That's a lot of debt for anybody to take on, but you and I know how much service members, particularly young ones, are paid. $10,000 worth of debt is indeed crushing. And so we have to recognize that their financial well-being is not what we'd like. We also recognize that, therefore, they're the ones who are most likely to use the payday loan facilities that operate off of so many of our post camps and stations. And you and I know as service members that those facilities don't always provide what we want for those who wear a uniform. And so those are issues that confront today's soldiers, service members, the airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen who wear the uniform. And we ought to make sure that we are taking care of them, even as we honor and respect those who've worn a uniform in the past. Now, I mentioned at USAA that we're proud to be aligned with the military and the military community, that we regard our commitment to them as sacred. It is worth remembering that this is something that has been a part of our history, because in 1922, when USAA was formed, it was because 25 Army officers got together because nobody else would insure their automobiles, because Army officers were regarded as poor risks. And so that concept of an association, of insuring oneself and looking after one's own community, the brothers and sisters that you shared a life with, created USAA. Now, all these years later, we stand at 8 million strong, and our intent is to continue to grow, because we believe this is a huge unmet need, that the military community, those who've worn a uniform and those who are the families of those who've worn a uniform, have many needs and are deserving of special treatment and care. And we believe that the programs that we offer are special. Let's talk, for example, when that young service member deploys right now to combat. They would expect to put their automobile in storage, and they'd expect what we give them, which is a 90% decrease in premiums, because obviously that vehicle is in a different configuration than one being operated on a daily basis. Let's talk about how we think of that young man or woman when he or she is deployed in combat. What we do is we charge no interest on their credit card loan. That's the kind of commitment that says we put our commitments where those young men and women are. And there are a host of other programs that are designed and tailored specifically for those that have worn a uniform and those that are currently wearing a uniform. We believe that's our mission because that is our commitment, to commit to serve. So as we look at, with great pride at this unique and special alliance between us and the VFW, we share a belief that the 1.7 million members that is the VFW is a part of a group that deserves special care and treatment for your service and your commitment to this great country. And so as we look at the future, we see a future that is both glowing and bright because we are America. We believe, as Ronald Reagan did, of the sunrise in America. But we also believe that behind that sunrise are challenges, challenges which cause us all to band together, to bring our strength to bear. I think the commitment that you have, Chairman, is very, very important. The commitment to go forward to Congress, to seek their support and approval for the unique funding and support that our veterans need is absolutely essential. And we are steadfastly behind you in that commitment, and we look forward to the days and months ahead in your service. Thank you so much for the privilege of being here today with you all.